Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber, and yeah, it's been a long time since we've done one of these, but seeing as it is indeed race week for the TCR UK finale, it's time we actually spoke about the penultimate round of the TCR UK Championship. And yeah, so welcome to episode 6 of my TCR UK Webbers Race Roundup. Yeah, it's been a while, of course. If you haven't been watching my channel these past few weeks, I've of course been working on my BTCC What If series, and of course that was a good gap between each upload. But yeah, now it's time to talk about round 6, and honestly I should have done this pretty much as soon as it happened, because I'll be honest, I can't really remember much other than, of course, the results. Of course, I can remember those. Obviously, I'll look back on those as I'm making this. But yeah, I remember race 2 being really good. I remember, of course, it was mixed conditions. It was wet. We had a new race winner, then we didn't. But then we also did at the same time. So yeah, let's get straight into Donington Park, round 6, TCR UK. Let's jump into qualifying. So qualifying, and of course Carl Boardley coming into round 6 as the championship leader, he really had to have another good weekend, and especially a good qualifying. However, Carl Boardley I don't even think was in the top 10. So yeah, big disappointment for Carl Boardley, who of course is currently still the championship leader going into the final round. However, going into the final round, he's got 5 other drivers to contend with. And it was one of his contenders that took pole position at Donington Park, and it was none other than Jenson Brickley. He would take, I believe, his first official qualifying pole position of his TCR UK career, and of course of the season, because he is a rookie. And yeah, once again, I'm half surprised and half not. Jenson Brickley this year is someone who has been undoubtedly one of the stars of the season. Arguably, apart from Carl Boardley, could be considered Rookie of the Year because, well, he is extremely young. He's come out of, I believe he came up from the Fiesta 240 Championship, which is, of course, now on the TCR support package. Yeah, it's great to see a lot of youngsters coming into TCR, you know, people who haven't got massive amounts of budget, and obviously they can't move into, let's say, the BTCC, so they move into TCR just to learn the ropes of tin top touring car racing. And Jenson Brickley is someone who very much is improving with each weekend. And if Brickley does come back next year, if he doesn't win the championship this year, if Brickley comes back for 2024, 1000% he's got to be considered as a major championship threat. So yeah, it was Jenson Brickley who took pole position at Donington Park for race 1. Adam Shepherd, once again, he was back on the front row as he was in Silverstone. Adam, of course, I've spoken about him many times in these race roundup videos. Adam is once again, of course, a championship contender. So yeah, Adam, seemingly Donington Park is one of Adam's best weekends. We saw in 2022, he took his maiden TCR win and then another podium from Donington Park, which put him in championship contention in 2022. And once again, Donington Park is seemingly one of his best tracks. So yeah, I'm sure Adam is probably loving going to Donington Park. Unfortunately, of course, the finale's at Brands Hatch. But yeah, Adam Shepherd, once again, great to see him doing well, especially with, of course, his lack of budget. Of course, he's only now just gotten the budget to obviously complete the season. He got that about a month ago, just before Donington, I think. So yeah, great to see Adam back up there, and of course being quick as ever, looking out the front row with Brickley. And then Bruce Winfield, he would complete the top 3. Bruce Winfield, again, consistent as ever in that Hyundai. As I mentioned, this year he seems to be clicking with it. Of course, was the early championship leader for the first half of the season, and of course Winfield is trying to get that championship lead back. He's got to do it at Brands if he wants to be champion. But yeah, your top 3 for qualifying was Jenson Brickley for, of course, Jenson Brickley Racing, Adam Shepherd for Area Motorsport, and then, of course, Bruce Winfield for Area Motorsport as well, rounding off the top 3. Now let's move on to race number 1. Now, I completely forgot to do my qualifying star of the session. So very quickly, I'm going to give that to Alistair Camp for qualifying P7 in his Pro Alloys Racing Hyundai. Of course, Donington Park was only his 2nd ever TCR UK event. Of course, he's been doing a mix of TCR UK and also doing the Miltech Honda Civic Cup. which of course is the championship with Honda Civics, EP3s and a few FN2s. So yeah, of course, whilst he's been doing that full time, he's been making some various appearances in TCR UK. He did the first round at Snetterton in a Hyundai, and then of course he did Donington Park. And I do think he is going to do the final round this weekend. I don't know, because I know the Civic Cup is also racing at Brands Hatch for their finale as well. So I still don't know if Alistair Camp is going to do both or if he's going to do one or the other. If anyone does know what Alistair's going to do this weekend, then let me know. But yeah, P7 for Alistair Camp in his second ever qualifying, so he gets my Donington Park start of the session. Now, moving on to race number 1. Now, not much change at the front. I forgot to mention Bruce Winfield was qualified 3rd, but he would actually start 8th because of a 5th place grid penalty for something that he did at Silverstone. I cannot remember exactly what that was. So again, if anyone does have the answer, let me know in the comments. So yeah, now you might be thinking, not much change at the front. Maybe Brickley took the win in... Well, technically, Jenson Brickley took the win. However, it was announced post-race that he had lost that due to overtaking under the safety car. Adam Shepherd took the lead on lap 1 or lap 2, I believe, in the first few laps. However, then a safety car came out and Jenson Brickley overtook Adam after the safety car had been called. So technically, it wasn't under the safety car, but because it was... after the safety car had been called, it does count as overtaking under the safety car, which meant he got a penalty, which meant he dropped to 2nd place. A big shame for Brickley, but that doesn't really harm his championship assault. P1 to P2 doesn't really harm him because he did indeed still outscore Boardley and Bruce Winfield, so 2 of his main championship rivals he outscored. Unfortunately, Adam Shepherd, he didn't outscore because Adam Shepherd would indeed take his first win of 2023, albeit inherited, but still, a win is a win. So Adam Shepherd took his maiden win of the season, not his maiden win in his career. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Adam. Great to see, you know, Adam is my favourite TCR driver, so it's great to see him do well. But yeah, and again, great to see Brickley back up there. Now, due to, of course, Winfield's penalty, it meant drivers got moved up. And Jack Constable started 3rd, finished 3rd. Once again, great to see Jack get another podium. He, of course, is also now in mathematical contention for the championship in the 6-way fight that we have in TCR UK. Again, great to see Jack Constable do well. As I keep saying, him and that Audi seem to be clicking. Of course, we don't know if that Audi is going to be back next year due to, of course, Audi pulling out of everything at the end of 2023. But yeah, great to see Jack doing what he does best, and that is just bringing the car home and getting a result out of it. So yeah, now my driver of the race. Now, there is a lot I could do after looking back at the results. I could do Cole Boardley, who finished 4th from 10th. I could do Alex Lee, who came from 16th to 6th. But I'm gonna give it my driver of the race for race 1. I'm going to give it to Brad Hutchison, because Brad Hutchison, he had a very poor qualifying. He, in fact, had a brand new car for Donington Park. He swapped out of his Gen 1 Audi and has now moved into a new Gen Cupra Leon Competizione. Of course, the new shape Cupra that of course, we all know and love. Yeah, so he had to delve with a new car. He had to delve it in, I believe it was changeable conditions in race 1. We'll just say that for now. And he came through from 20th on the grid to 8th place, a top 10. Unreal performance, not just by him, but also, of course, by the guys at MPH Racing with Bondit. Of course, to have mechanics work on a car that they've worked on for 2 years and all of a sudden have a completely brand new car to work on, it probably added a bit of pressure on Brad and the team, but great to see Brad Hutchinson finally do well, you could say. Of course, Brad has had a podium this year, but of course, you can't really compete with the new gen cars, with the old gen cars. We've seen that for the majority of this year, aside from, of course, his one-off podium at Alton Park in his old gen Audi. But yeah, great to see Brad Hutchinson do well. So he gets my race 1 driver of the race. Now let's move on to, of course, the final race, race number 2. So, of course, race number 2, and of course, the final race before, of course, the final round this weekend. And yeah, of course, as always with the 2-race format, the top 10 finishers of race 1 get reversed, and that meant Scott Sumpton, who finished 10th in race 1, would start on pole position in, of course, his FK7 Honda Civic Type R, with, of course, Restart Racing, with, of course, Yas Motorsport, with, of course, his... but yeah, so he was joined on the front row by Alistair Camp, who, of course, could have also been a mention for driver of the race in race 1. He started 21st, finished 9th. Great result by Alistair Camp, and we will talk about him in a second. Brad Hutchinson would start in 3rd, and Chris Smiley would start 4th. So this was a big race for the Honda Camp Restart Racing. Big day for Scott Sumpton and Smiley. Of course, as we know, both Honda cars have been struggling this year. I'm not too sure why. I think with Smiley, it could just be a completely brand new car off the shelf, of course. Before this year, in fact, Chris Smiley was the first ever driver to receive the new FL5 Civic for 2023, and unfortunately he just hasn't had the success that other Honda drivers using the FL5 have had. Of course, we've seen it in TCR Europe, we've seen it in the World Tour, and we've seen it in TCR Italy as well, that it's able to win races, but for some reason in TCR UK it just hasn't been able to do that. I'm not too sure why. I'm not too sure if there's an issue with the car. I'm not too sure if it's Smiley not being able to just find that thing that makes the car go. I don't know at this point, but I really hope we do see Honda come back next year with something a little bit more competitive. I am a Honda fan, so I do want to see the Japanese manufacturer do well. But anyway, would it be that day for Honda? It unfortunately would not be. Scott Sumpton would drop to, I believe, 7th in the race for now. But yeah, with, of course, not as crazy a race in race 1. We did have a few DNFs, but it would be Brad Hutchinson who would take his maiden TCR UK victory in just his 2nd ever race with the Cupra Leon. Chris Smiley would indeed get a podium, so that would be great. And then, of course, Alistair Camp, he would take his maiden podium finish of his TCR UK career in just his 4th ever race, until a few hours after the race had finished, a few hours after the event had finished, it had been announced that both Brad Hutchinson and Chris Smiley had failed the ride height test, which, of course, if you watch BTCC, you will know that that is not good news. It did unfortunately mean that Brad Hutchinson lost his maiden victory at Donington Park, and honestly, I genuinely feel for him. It's a massive shame, you know, especially someone who, as I mentioned, Brad Hutchinson hasn't had the best year this year. He's been struggling with the older shape car, the much older car, I believe the RS3 LMS car that he had was one of the oldest TCR cars on the grid. So yeah, a massive shame for Brad, but of course he's at the finale this weekend. Maybe he can get that maiden win back, and of course if he's back in 2024, no doubt he will be fighting for wins in that Cupra, maybe even the championship, who knows. And again, for Chris Smiley, he's been really unlucky this year, I think. You know, of course, with the crash at Silverstone, only getting, I think, 1 podium this year, struggling with the FL5. It's a massive shame, especially for the reigning champions to have such a bad year. It must suck for Chris Smiley and the Restart Racing boys. But again, I'm confident that Honda and Chris Smiley and Restart Racing will come back next year. So, with the top 2 disqualified, there's a bit of moving about we've got to do. Well, Alistair Camp will not just celebrate a maiden podium, he is now going to celebrate a maiden victory. Yep, Alistair Camp, who finished 3rd overall, would then be, of course, jumped up to the win due to disqualifications. And again, great to see. I love seeing new winners in championships. You know, I love seeing brand new winners. And of course, whilst we didn't have the winner we should have had, we still got a new winner. Great to see from Alistair Camp, and it seems like if he wins the Civic Cup or not, it seems like that we will probably see Alistair Camp at some point in the future in TCR UK. I'd very much like to see him for a full season next year. I think that would be phenomenal. And again, could that be a dark sider or an outsider for the championship? Who knows? With that, it then became a Hyundai 1-2-3 because Adam Shepherd took another podium. He got the exact same results in 2023 at Donington Park than he did in 2022. A win and a second place, putting him once again in the championship fight. And then Alex Lee, out of nowhere, Alex Lee would take another podium finish. He seems to be, this year, he seems to be that kind of person who is always sneaking onto the podium. Seems to be that kind of person or that kind of driver, Alex Lee, this year. But again, great to see Alex Lee do well again. My driver of the race, Joe Marshall. There we go. Joe Marshall gets my race 2 driver of the race. He started 21st in race 1 due to an unfortunate DNF in race 1. So for race 2, he started 21st and he finished 4th. A brilliant result for Joe Marshall, someone who, again, this year hasn't been the best rookie, but has certainly surpassed all expectations. He certainly surpassed my expectations of him. I honestly did not expect him to be anywhere near fighting for podiums, and especially coming from 21st to 4th. It just shows that really, no matter what your background is in racing, if you want to race in touring cars, you can. Of course, Joe Marshall has raced in mainly GTs and, of course, more recently the Ginetta GT4 Super Cup a few years ago. So coming from a GT background into touring cars, it just shows that if you want to race in touring cars, you can, and you can be very competitive. So congratulations to Joe Marshall on winning my driver of the race. Now, my overall driver of the day or driver of the weekend. This is going to be tough because a lot of drivers had a big standout, but honestly, I could give it to a few people. I would give it to Adam Shepherd because of the results, but honestly, they weren't really standout performances, to be honest. We're looking for standout performances when giving out these awards, so yeah, I'm on it. I'm going to give it to Alistair Camp. I'm going to give Alistair Camp my driver of the race. Of course, Alistair qualified 7th in qualifying, had to start at the back. I can't remember why in race 1. Came from 21st to 9th and then stayed out of trouble, got an on-track podium, and then, of course, became a race winner in the process. So congratulations to Alistair Camp. He gets my round 6 driver of the weekend. But yeah, that is it. That is episode 6 of Webber's Race Roundup. Of course, we have one more of these to go, and that will come at some point within the next week, of course. It's the finale this weekend. We have 6 drivers in contention for the championship. Carl Boardley is one of them. Adam Shepherd is one of them. Bruce Winfield is one of them. I can't remember who else. Jack Constable's one of them. And I can't remember who else. That's poor on me, but yeah, those are just some of the contenders, and of course I will be there. I will be at the finale this Sunday, I believe, so I will be there at race day. Yeah, I can't predict who's going to win the championship at this point in time because TCR UK has been so unpredictable this year. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Who do you think will walk out of 2023 with the TCR UK Championship? What are your predictions for Brands Hatch? And of course, what were your thoughts on Donington Park's TCR round? Thank you guys for watching. Of course, if you are new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it of course does help my channel grow. And yeah, click that red subscribe button because we are firmly on the road to 200 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.